Hello and welcome back to Transcending Ascension. Today on Transcending Ascension, we're going to have a conversation with Angela, a dance instructor that teaches how to heal and ascend in a Christ-centered way with dance. A fascinating topic I'm excited to dive into. So welcome, Angela. Thank you so much for being on the show, and let everybody know what you do and how you help people.
Thanks, Diana. It's nice to be here with you. And so I teach. I'm glad you mentioned Christ dancing from the Christ-centered way. I actually teach about connecting to the heart, which for me wasn't always just about Christ. I started connecting to the heart through Sufi dance, and just recently, I'm starting to read a few other people who look at the Aramaic teachings of Jesus, which were very much connected to some of the first Sufi masters as well. So I teach dance always about connecting through the heart. I teach Sufi movement. I also teach body, mind centering and connecting to the heart through that. And I teach belly dance and world dance, samba, Afro samba, and a few other cultural dances, and how they all basically are a way of connecting us all over the world to this body and to this center channel of the body, which the heart is the center of those 7 chakras. And what I do in the classes is really just help people, like you're saying, Diana, before we came on, like, where is your entry point? Because all of us are different. We all come from different backgrounds, different countries. We all have different life experience, different parents. So everybody's going to have a different path to ascension or to enlightenment. And it's in the heart. It's actually, for me, what I've discovered in the heart is there's no limit to the self. And when we really go into the heart, it's multidimensional, perhaps multi-universe. You can travel through the heart. You can go to other realities. You can experience another person. You become other people through the heart. So there's many, many layers to the teachings of the heart, which I want to chat with you today, Diana, because I think you've got a really multidimensional way of combining the metaphysical. And that's a little bit about me. I can talk more about the dance later, but the heart's my big obsession. And I wanted to talk to you more about how Jesus taught about the heart too.
Yes, that is fascinating. Yeah, it's funny you called that. I was, as soon as you said that, I was so excited that especially like learning to be other people, because as someone who originally identified as like the empath type, that's exactly what like the empath finds themselves accidentally doing, is getting and becoming other people. Before you learn to control it, learn what it is. It's actually just an increased ability. So are you saying that's coming from the heart, and I have an awakened heart center, like in human design, I have a defined heart center. So that's interesting. I wonder if like all empath people have that awakened, defined heart center. And then you're saying that it is the point. And I already teach people that there is a living portal of God in there. So that is that specific space. So definitely dive right in there, into how that works for us. And I'm fascinated.
Because I come from dance, a lot of what I experience is experiential. And I can say from childhood that I had mystical experiences, like what you're saying about the empaths. I had little beings that I spoke to. Some of them weren't always clear about who they were, and I didn't know who they were. So the first time for me where I got that connection to the heart, which was a direct portal to the divine, was in Sufi dance. I got the conscious awareness that the divine is in my heart center and loves me in such an enormous way that there is no human love that can describe it. I mean, people who have those near-death experiences, they say that there's so much love when they go to the other realm, they don't want to come back. Why? It's incredible. So I was gifted that at 27 or so in the Sufi dance, and it was a bit of a shock because you're in this body and you're thinking there is this enormous love that I can feel in my heart. And my first thought was it wasn't me, which is not correct. All of us have within our heart access to that universal self, that spiritual self. And Diane, I was watching another video of yours about the Gospel of Thomas, the Gnostic gospel. And there's the egoic self. There's that part. There's the body. There's actually within our heart center, that's a spiritual heart, it's a chakra. There is access to the universal self. That is the light that comes into this body when we're born. And we can come across it in 1,000 million ways. So sometimes when you fall in love, you'll get that feeling. Have you ever had that where you fell in love and you know, oh my God, I love this person more than anything? And it's that little door to that universal self that knows that greater love. And then we get into the relationship. It's completely different. So we all have it. It's just the portal that we have is just all of our lifespan. So if you watch near-death experiences, they do that life review, and then they go, oh, that's why I had that relationship. Oh, I wish I didn't do that. Every single relationship is what we incarnated to basically start to open and heal that heart chakra. So even the abuse, the trauma, the deaths, the abandonment, we chose all of that to get that heart to open to a different form of love. In some ways, I sort of have this theory that most of us have quite dark nights of the soul to just put us into love, connection to that higher self. You can either go deeper into the dark night or you can get out it. You can see some light at the end of the tunnel. And all of the relationships, the more you can heal the relationships, that's like the empaths, what they can tend to do is they can blame other people because they're sucking their energy. That was actually a step for them to learn how to see that their energy is leaking. They're leaking their energy, and how they don't seal their boundaries, or how they think that other people want something from them when they don't. Maybe you're just giving energy unconsciously, and maybe you have to learn consciously to manage it. So empaths often don't miss the learning opportunity when they're feeling drained, or that they're becoming other people, to see that they chose that as a way to open to another portal in the heart. It's a multi-dimensional vehicle in the heart, which people like the Melchizedek teacher Drumvalo, he talks about the dodecahedron, and there's many sacred geometry teachers that talk about that. In my experience as a dance person, it's so multidimensional, because you can dance and you can go to another culture, you can go to another planet, you can go into a person. There's so many things you can go to. You can go and have out-of-body experiences. You can become animals. You can become half animal, half alien. There's so many things in the dance through all time, through all shamanic dance. We've been able to transport through dance, through the heart center, to so many places. And of course, it may not just be the heart center. You might be using the whole Kundalini energy. So in the dance, my experience is it's not just, there's many multi-dimensions to it. The people who teach sacred geometry, they're more mathematically minded, or they have spatial intelligence. I don't have that. I have a very different energy body that can transport. Like, I watched Doctor Who when I grow up, like a TARDIS. I watched Doctor Who, and I believe it was part of my entrainment, because I used to be able to teleport consciously and in my mind to other areas. And one of my things was I had to learn what was fantasy, imagination, wishful thinking versus, oh, no, I'm actually somewhere else. And then what to do if I was somewhere else, what was the purpose of being there? Because for the heart to go somewhere, you really want to know the intention behind that. And so that's a simple sort of way to say, I don't know, as a dancer, how to just isolate it to one sort of specific thing. I can share on, in the heart chakra from India, they teach that it's basically a 6-pointed star. And to put it very simply, through sacred geometry, there's the 2 triangles of a 6-pointed star, like the Star of David. One is directed to heaven in the heart chakra and one is directed to earth. So you're always, one of the other parts of the heart chakra is you're always navigating the relationship between your non-physical self, or the God, and the physical self, or human, or earth. So that's always been, it's a constant thing that's going on, whether we're sleeping, dreaming, or conscious, it's always happening. And often, I'm fascinated to know, Diana, if you have this, but I think now with the ascension process, a lot of us have been doing it in our sleep or in our altered states, but not with drugs and stuff, but we're not doing it consciously. So there's a whole part of the heart energy as well that we're very, I feel it in the dance. It's non-verbal, and I feel it's also, it's happening without us necessarily having to do anything. From your other video, the Gnostic Gospel of Thomas video, you were saying something about like we're more evolved, advanced than the people who wrote those Gospels. But it's also that our planet now, our collective, our human species, and the earth vibrates differently. And we have got ascension happening for us. We don't have to do it, like, because the consciousness of the planet and the species was so different, they had to work a lot harder. And now we're just sort of been giving these downloads, which is the other thing that the heart chakra has been showing me in the last, I think since 2012, the speeding up of the process is also that the divine is meeting us more. I know when I had my first heart awakening, it was 1997, I think. And I went, what's that? I don't know what that is. That's God or something divine, something bigger than me. I don't have that thought anymore. I know there is something bigger than me, and I feel it inside of me. And that's what I feel from 2012. Like it's just sped up so much that the heavenly realms, the non-physical realms, are coming much, much more intensely to us, that we're going to get ascended whether we want it or not, really. It's happening, and that's the gift of, we've been blessed to be born in these times, because others had to work hard. They had to do sadhana or go off into the mountains and get lost and find themselves. And some of my friends did a lot of other things and didn't make it necessarily. But now we've been lucky to be alive to make it. So that's what I was wondering about, how you were finding the ascension process with the heart now as well, like how.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You said so many things there that were like filling in what I've been trying to get through to people, because I can see it, and you can see it and know how it works. And a lot of the time I'm learning ancient teachings just to explain it to people, because what you're saying, that the heart is exactly it. Like, it is this generating portal that's doing so much for us. And going into what you said in the past, that is so key, and it's true. And I say, like, oh, we know so much more than them, and it can be frustrating when you're going through them, because I found them like lacking. Like, I love the juice. I love, just tell me why, because I can see it, and it's exactly what you're saying. And we are speeding up. So, and a lot of the reason is that we don't have to struggle to survive. So we can actually allow this to do its job, because this, you learn early as an empath even, that this is a filtration system. And that is something I've kept. I've moved away from the title, but that is something I've kept. This is a filtration system for the entire world. And the more that we give it, like, the gas and the fuel that it needs, the care, so dancing, all the things it needs to be pure. And this is why I often will teach and preach purity and try to explain to people why we don't sin. It's not because, God said not to sin. We don't sin because you're clogging this up. And that's separate from the karma, because you're also creating karma. But right now we're talking heart. You are also clogging up this filtration system, because and they've even scientifically proven this, which I've talked about in previous episodes, of the generating energy factor of the heart that they've tested. And some people have one that just go this far, and some people have one that stretches up to 9 feet outside them. And they've done tests that prove, like in meditation, that you could stretch it throughout the whole town, like where I am. Like, you could stretch the entire heart centered energy. They could actually pick up on the energy frequencies. So imagine what more is happening metaphysically that we are just not even picking up on. It is this whole huge thing that we are activating, and keeping an activated heart center is one of the main things I do. And everything else is just to do that. So any of my, like, yoga or kundalini practices are to keep this clean and clear. And I can think of that, clean and clear and under control, because you want that to be, this is everything. This is your, I don't want to say weapon, but it is your safeguard. It's your safety suit. It's your, like, Iron Man suit. It's your everything for yourself. But then it's also, like you were saying, interdimensional travel. Like, as I know, the olden day pirate thing that you take out and look, how it was little and then bigger and bigger and bigger. And I hear people use the Russian doll, but I like that one because it's all attached, and you look and it gets bigger and bigger. Like how you were saying, it comes through the heart. Like, so we have access all the way to the top through the heart. I agree. And that clearing, and the more we bring down that bigger presence, it's great for us. That's where miracle healings happen. But it's the whole reason why the ascension's speeding up as our living. Plus, we are getting cosmic help. We are getting a lot of cosmic help too from the outside. That is definitely happening. And then it's all working together in that toroidal field we talked about earlier, before we went live. That image I love to show, because as we get easier living, we can be in the heart more. Like, just today, as I was walking home from dropping my daughter off from school, there was a worm crossing the street. And this is silly, but of course I saved it. I always save the worms. And then I'm like, why do I save a worm? But I don't understand how people, like, save trapped lions. Or if there was even a man on the street that was hurt, would I help them? I might not, because I'm scared. But I can stop and save the worm because I know the worm's not going to help me. But that's just an example of how the more safe the world becomes, the more we're allowed to be in that heart center, because it is I don't want to say it's fragile, but it is a very sensitive place that, if treated poorly, will cause you a lot of pain. Now, I'm sure it's strong enough to survive. I mean, they say people die of a broken heart, so there is something there of it being fragile. So it does need to be safeguarded, maintained. But everything you're saying on what it does for us, 120,000% agree. It is that and more. And the layers that the heart does for us are infinite and vast. So when you say that you got into a place in Sophie dance, like, what do you know? There is a difference then between, like, the dance elevates that heart awakening even more then?
So the Sufis came with the beginning of Islam, and my teacher Adnan, he used to say Adam in the Bible was the first Sufi as well. So they're known to be connected to the beginning of Islam, but there is an ancient sort of tradition connected back to the Essenes that were around Jesus and to other ancient practices all around the Middle East to the Far East, where they always connected to the breath. So if you work with yoga, you're using the breath. If you work with Qigong, you're using the breath. And there's a beautiful writer, if people want to know about the Aramaic language of Jesus, I just came across his book. It's called The Healing Breath, and it's by, because I'm not a book girl, so if I come across a book, it's because I'm trying to get some history to the dance. So it's Neil Douglas Klotz, and it's called The Healing Breath, and he talks about Jesus with the Aramaic words, was talking about the word breath in Aramaic means spirit. And the same practices
Ruha.
Ruha.
Yeah, right?
Ruha.
Yeah.
So they did these body movements with the breath. And I grew up Catholic, so we used to do liturgical dance. And I know in America there's a whole dance form of spiritual dance that they practice this, but it actually comes from these ancient movements where you are moving the breath. And because the breath, the throat chakra is connected to the heart, and the lungs sit on both sides of the heart. The heart sits in the middle of these two lungs, and our arms, when we're doing these movements, all the Mideastern dances, the folkloric dances, they're opening up the heart, they're opening up the arms, they're opening up the lungs. And so if you look at the Sufis, they do chants in the name of God, Allah, they do Allah. So the breath and the movement of the body was a way to basically move the Kundalini, and with the intent that everything was connected. So if we look at modern day Bibles, a lot of the translation has lost that original yummy, that life force that is for me in every dance. It's in Qigong, it's in Tai Chi, it's in yoga. You're breathing and you're just moving with the rhythm of the breath, and the body's synchronized. So all of these cultures, the Qigong, the Asian cultures, the Mideastern cultures, even some of what we have in liturgical dance today, they use movement and breath synchronized. And that is to move the Kundalini and to align your chakras. So and purity as well. So in India, they do dhyana, which is, they use mantras, maybe a mudra, maybe not. They do pranakriya. They do some mudras, simple ones, or sometimes more complex, but you're using sound, and you're repeating the sound to purify the chakras. And the Sufis, they do a lot of whirling. That's more advanced. You might do some more sort of repetitive movements or swaying movements and undulating movements. So undulation is a huge part of all folkloric dance. They undulate up the body. They're rippling the energy up and down, up and down, up and down. And then if you go back to just children, a lot of our basic movements as a child, we're bouncing. So there's a lot of our own body rhythms that are always trying to align that heart with the up and the down, that magnetic pole from the earth to the sun. Gravity holds us on this planet. Some people call gravity the force of love because it basically keeps us on this planet. Otherwise, we wouldn't stay here. It's loving us by aligning us. And then it allows the Kundalini to start moving up or to where it needs to move in order. I do a lot of work with the Indian traditions, but if you have karma or samskara shuddhis, things that need to be moved in the spine because you've incarnated with things to be cleared, that movement can help you. It doesn't necessarily get rid of it, but it helps you to get more sense of the energies that are blocked in the body. So, for example, when I was doing Sufi movement on a daily basis, I had a lot of trauma come up, and it stopped me from dancing. And it was very debilitating because I'm a pretty good improvised dancer. Like, I can dance anytime anybody asks me to dance, I'll dance. But the thoughts and the pain in my body and the heart was so debilitating at times I couldn't dance. And I had to see myself. So in dance, you can use it with the intent to heal. You can do it as well. The first and the most basic thing is to align your body, use the breath, move it up and down, move it out, like you said in your video from the Thomas Gospel, like to move it out into that torus of the aura and to recycle the energy. The secondary layer where the healing comes in, and I think this is something not really well understood. I mean, people in somatic work, somatic dance work, body mind centering, Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen, other somatic healers, they know this. But as soon as you start moving, trauma that's stuck anywhere in the body, it could be a past life, it could be this life, we don't care. It could be from your birth. Children have trauma many times from the neck, just going through the birth canal. Sometimes a shock response can be in the body. So sometimes dance can reactivate that. It can help you feel you and the layers of yourself. Whereas our mind, which we use most of the time, will get out of dodge. Anytime it can intellectualize or make up a story, because our mind just loves stories, it'll make a story up. Oh, I don't like this, I'm just going to watch Netflix. Oh, I don't care about that, I'll just ignore it. In dance, you're enlivening your senses to what's unconscious. And that happened to me in such a big way, especially in the Sufi, like I had a big heart awakening and all this rubbish then was coming up as well. And I'm like, I didn't ask for this. I thought this is about spiritual stuff. And then I realized, oh, this is what spiritual stuff is about. It's bringing up your stuff. And that's the next layer of dance where it gets more into healing, that the deeper you can be with the unconscious stuff, the easier it is, say, to witness your trauma or hold space for your body, not run away. You can develop, and this is what a lot of spiritual dance people do, they develop the patience to just be with the body and not run away, which most of the therapy work is good, but it teaches you to make a story. It doesn't, unless you have a good somatic therapist and they can really be with your body and help you to be with your body, which I had the gift to be with some somatic therapists who were able to do that for me. But my mind was so good, it's still escaping. So for me, the dance is all about developing and cultivating a space for the self to allow feeling, to allow the self to feel. If we look at Jesus from the original Aramaic language, this is what I'm getting from Neil's work. It was when he was talking about the breath, he was helping people to feel more their spiritual energy. And that's what all the Sufi work and the Qigong and everything, that's what everybody's doing. When you're breathing, the yoga, you're breathing, you're moving, you're feeling that essence, that spiritual energy, which has no words. It's just energy. They call it ki or prana or whatever. What's that? And dance, cultivates that part of you, that welcomes that part of you to naturally be your real self, not the personality self that thinks it should be whatever your role is supposed to be in the world. And the more I've done the dance as well, Diana, like, I don't care now about being something in the world. It's all about the spirit in the body. I've reduced everything in my life to God and me. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need the job, the label, the whatever, blah, 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 which is surprising for me, because I spent a lot of time, like about 30 years, trying to be something. And then I went, I don't know. No, I think I'll just be my heart and, explore that. And I started that way from childhood. I was an exploring type of child, and I ended up back where I started. Took a
That's
while.
the good thing, that you want to do that. And I myself am doing the same thing, although I was a magically obsessed Harry Potter girl. So, but now I'm like living the actual Harry Potter life. So, yeah, I feel you right there, because your child instincts, that and being a journalist, which kind of doing that too.
Yes, you are. Oh my
So
God.
that's how it works when you live from the heart. Like, your actual truth is the thing. So you can have all the mansions you want, but if you aren't living from the heart, and then even like you said, living for the self. But the funny thing is when you live for the self and the heart, you naturally will take care of other people easily, because that heart sees that connection. It's no longer just an idea, it's a reality, and it just takes a life of its own. So that's well put there. That I love that.
Yeah, and the other thing, because it's interesting you're Harry Potter, because I was Doctor Who, and I was really Doctor Who, like a bit of like, obsessed.
That was me and Harry Potter. Yeah, obsessed.
Yeah, my cousin is a Harry Potter generation. I loved Harry. I would read every book. I couldn't put it down. So 18 hours just reading every book. Because for me, when Harry came out, it was justification for everything I had gone through. I was like, yes, now all the children are going to be like me.
It made them, yeah.
So I love that the next generation. And then we had Avatar that came out too. So that's preparing people for the next species that's going to be coming. And so lots of these things have been seeded into the collective, which are fantastic. And I think the reality now, when I grew up, I was watching Doctor Who from 3 years of age. So when you're 3, you don't know the difference between fantasy and reality. So I think that was good for me, because I live my delusion now. But there's this thing now that, because now quantum science is saying that what we think is our reality. The matrix is real, basically, but even within the matrix, you are creating your own universe. So with the heart, what I started to experience with the dance, we would do a dance class together with my dance group, with my teacher in Australia, in Sydney, where I am now. And we would do a lot of work with the heart, feeling the actual physical heart, feeling like how the heart would move in space. So we went right into the organ, which is different to the heart chakra, but they're very much related, connected. They work together. And then we would leave the dance class, and all of us would not just have these extraordinary, like, laughing and having a good time, chatting to strangers, picking up. A lot of us got lucky after the dance class. I used to try and advertise the class, like, oh, you should do this class. It's really good. After you leave, you can pick up. But it wasn't about having sex. It was about you would just meet strangers and these conversations happened, and the person would suddenly like look at you in that way, like, oh, hello, because we were creating a field. Like you said earlier, it started to expand and they can measure it, but we were measuring it in our mood, in our joy, in our ability to meet people and have great conversations. And later on, I became a relationship coach, and I tried to share these strategies with other people, but it wasn't as easy as doing the dance and feeling deeply into our bodies and having fun and expanding that into a field. So we actually use in dance a sense of a sphere of space, kind of like the torus. And we would dance that. And we would dance in each other's space, and we became able to actually physically feel, like Harry Potter, that was like a cauldron, that, you know, the Ponciev, and you stick your face into the Ponciev. We were doing that with each other's auras. And that's when I started to, I've always been dancing with auras since I was 18 and stuff in nightclubs, and weird stuff would happen. I had a lot of Kundalini awakening and just sort of weird stuff that people would look, oh, what did you just do? And I didn't do anything. I was just dancing in their aura. So I knew I had this thing where I danced with people and things would move. But then I was with other people. We were dancing specifically with the heart, and we began to feel this actual field of energy, this space. And it made me realize that when you focus on, maybe it's not the heart, it could be the brain, or it could be another organ of your body. The organs are power centers for humans that actually create realities. Some people think they're connected to our ancestral parts from other planets. Our organs actually are connected to the Pleiades or wherever we're seated from. And they've put certain things into our organs to help us understand certain emotions and to experience those emotions with more ease, to process them. So the heart, we can create actual realities. And one thing we used to do, which can be something for your viewers to try, is we would have like a heart space that we started to feel, and we'd put something in there. So it could be, just make it up like Harry Potter. You just, I'm going to put a creative lover that's going to, do things that makes my hair stand up and I'm really happy. You just create this thing that you're going to put into that heart space. Or it could be just a feeling like of peace, or a color. So you can put anything in that space, and then you could allow it to dance. And we did a lot of improv like this. And I've done a lot of that since. I've done theater and performance, and with those things, just in the heart space, you can create a whole choreography by putting something in there. And that's where the magic happens, because with the dance, what I discovered is dancing with the heart more and more through many different modalities, didn't matter which one, I could make something physically real in my life. I could feel more empowered in my heart. I could perhaps allow a broken heart to just release and just to feel the sadness and to let it go. I could be more expanded in that energy, more confident in that energy. And that's because I have done so much dance with it. It creates a different reality. And that's the next level of the work that I'm perhaps a bit more obsessed about. It's like, how do we create this new energy body, this new body that says, this is what I'm putting out there, whether it's peace or I'm working through a breakup and I want to experience being free of suffering. So you put that in that space. You say, okay, I'm exploring what that is. You don't put any rules on it, but you create a really beautiful container for it. And because I work with the divine, I always ask the divine to seal that container. So I'm not doing it. I'm not just doing it by myself. I'm calling on the divine beings and I'm asking them to seal that space, and then asking for whatever I want to experience in the heart. And start to feel that in my reality. And because we did so many classes dancing like that, and I saw after the class, sometimes I would heal certain emotions, I would journal and all this stuff would come out. Other times I would be so happy, just naturally happy. I didn't have to think. I didn't care what I was thinking. It was gone. Or I would have a thought and be like, oh, yeah, that's a thought. That's great. Oh, what? Wow. And just enjoy life. That's where I think we're moving with the next stage of our world, where we're not in the head anymore. We're creating these heart spaces that we want to be Harry Potter. We want to bring in whatever it is that we want to bring in. We're not conditioned by the society anymore. And that's, I think you've shared that on your other videos about how society is trying to stop us doing that. But ultimately, and this is one of the things that I've learned through different folkloric dance traditions, dance has always been used to start something that the dominant culture wouldn't allow. And so a dance was created. Capoeira was a martial arts that they practiced. They weren't allowed to fight. They weren't allowed instruments to fight. So they just started dancing. And samba, a lot of the roots of samba were a dance form that the dominant culture didn't want the people. You can't party like we do. So they did their own party in their own way. And so dance is a very interesting place in history, in human history. Birds do dance as well, but humans are the most intricate with their dance forms, where we have sort of used dance to create a way of moving energy that the dominant culture that's trying to stop us from connecting to who we are, our spiritual self, it can't get away with. I mean, they do that in the movie The Matrix too. They have that big dance community in the movie. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, that scene got weird. I just rewatched them recently. Like, why are they dancing for so long, so awkwardly? Like it was a big orgy of like thousands of people.
That was my
decade.
decade.
Trying to tell us? I was literally going, why are they doing this? Is that why?
I think it was the 90s. They had some idea about that. Was like epic.
They got really industrial.
We didn't care about mansions back then. We were just like out for the big night out, man.
Yeah. I it's funny because I can, it's when you talk about clubs and stuff, you probably heard this because I talk about it a lot in my other videos, but I was raised an atheist. So when Harry Potter mattered to me, that was my only source of not being an atheist. Like when you're raised an atheist, and then if you have any kind of magical thought, it's shot down that you might be schizophrenic, like literally like no magic allowed. And then so when I grew up in my early 20s, the clubs became a big thing for me, going to clubs. And then it came with a whole drinking scene, but I would go and not even drink and just dance all night. And like I even found myself wishing it was still the 70s, but like it was still like there was something about it. And I would go my whole work week 9 to 5 and then wait. This is after school. So like when school was over and you got to the working world, like like I was done my journalism school, and it was the only thing I lived for. It was the only thing that made me happy. Like mostly, I mean, I'm sure there was other things, but it was in like it would set me off for the rest of the week to have a good week. Like there was something about it. It was tangible. So I like what you said there, like that was real. I've started to suspect looking back that there like the energy build up, but then yeah, that dance, it is so powerful. So it's fantastic to hear that you can do that. And what you were talking about, I've heard what you said earlier about Adam being the first of in Kabbalah, they say Adam is the first Kabbalist too. So it's funny but it makes sense because the
busy man,
right? Yeah, busy guy. He did a lot, but they also say, because it all starts, they also say Kabbalists. They make a joke like in the occult world they all turn to orgies, and it's funny like to see, because I wonder if it's to do with that dance thing that you're saying, that everybody would come and then end up like hooking up, because it just does create this camaraderie, this we are instant best friends, you know, like it does that.
Yeah, I think a lot of cultures use dance to resolve conflict. And we did too. We used to have parties, and in a warehouse I lived with artists, and artists are hard work. We're all like, oh, my life is also difficult, and we created problems for each other, not just with each other, but we were problematic for the other people. So the party would come and we'd all just be friends, and it was really weird to me because I was obsessed also with relationships. Why relationships were so hard for me. I was a people pleaser and I felt very insecure and I had social anxiety, and yet when we had these parties, all of that stuff just slipped away. So I was obsessed from around the same time I had my heart awakening. I was obsessed with why are relationships triggering me so much. And that's very normal too. If anyone's watching you and you can have a heart awakening any second, but it doesn't mean that the heart is healed. Like you talk about purity, and I love that word. They use purity in the Sufi traditions as well. And I think in the West we've got this idea of purity that's sort of a bit, I don't know,
it's dry and it's false, and it's not telling you the real reason why you need to be pure. That's all. I feel you there, absolutely.
Yeah. Because I'd forgotten the Arabic word for it, but there's another feeling of purity, and it's something more about the light, like the source. I've got a picture on the wall there, that the light that we all come from and that we all go to. There's a love in it that's unconditional. That's another version sort of about purity. It's this unconditionalness that we can't quite touch it because we're in this world and we're here to experience the complexity of relationships and things that are not complete, that are not finished. So the heart awakening will often trigger trauma or hurts or unresolved emotions that need to, then the relationship manifests. So that happened to me. Oh my God. So after the heart awakened and I knew God was real, I didn't think I was God, but I knew God was real. Then every sort of relationship problem that you could have, I tried it. But I pursued I was very obsessed with my family relationships, and they have really transformed. So that's the other thing with the heart. Once you decide, I want to have a love relationship, or I want to heal my relationship with my mother, when you start working with the heart, all you need to do is really commit. Because it's from when I was a younger child, I was really passionate and really overly passionate, which served me well later, because if I wanted to heal a relationship, even if I didn't feel good about the person or I didn't feel good about myself, I would just keep going and insist on creating a better relationship. And I didn't bypass the problems, but I knew that there was I had to have a desire for the healing. So I think sometimes that's one of the things I see now with a bit of the spiritual bypassing, like people go, oh, I've got a good relationship with my mother or something like that. So they don't want to look at it and they don't want to do that deeper work. And what I learned from the dance, there is, especially the Sufi work, the purification is, you were born in this body and there's stuff that you came to release, to purify, which they do in the whirling. If you watch the whirling dervishes, that's why they do it. It doesn't mean by whirling you'll heal your relationships. You start to bring up your stuff like a centrifuge, like that torus. So you bring your stuff up, and then it usually comes to one of the chakras, And you usually have some sort of health crisis, psychological crisis, or a spiritual crisis, something like that. And sometimes you can just stop work for whatever reason, and then you have to look at yourself. Now, in the West and in the East too, we often don't look at ourselves. We don't know. We haven't been taught by spiritual teachers to really look inside. So that's something that the ancients, like Jesus, a lot of his texts are so beautiful about the heart. Like, I mean, the main teaching, I don't remember Jesus writing very well, but the main teaching to me, love one another as I have loved you, that teaching in itself just like resonates in so many ways for me, because you have to feel firstly how he loves you. if you just do that, how he loves you, that in itself is, your mind can philosophize about it, but if you read the text of the Bible and you start to read what he says about his love for us, there's another feeling to it. And that's what I've felt in the dance. I've felt God's love many times. I spoke about it earlier, that knocked my socks off, that feeling of the divine. And that feeling that we all have it, but we all have different filters on top of it. So every human being has it. So the filters that you have on top of the heart, they have to be purified as well. They and the filters can be things like, oh, nobody loves me because I'm not this person. So some perception you have of yourself, or I can't be this person because nobody cares about what I think. Nobody wants to hear what I've got to say. So those filters, those are perceptions, and they're things that you have to be in. When the heart starts to awaken, they keep coming back and they keep coming back and they keep coming back. And that's the purification. Because I think I saw that in your other video too. It's like you still have your stuff, and it keeps coming back and it keeps coming back, and then it's just gone.
Yeah.
It's like that's the purification. That's what all of these techniques today, we're doing a lot of the purification techniques, but the ancients just did it as part of their culture. So every tribe had a day that they didn't eat. Every tribe had a new moon ritual and a full moon ritual. These tribal traditions, they're coming back, and we've been disconnected basically, but they're still, like, I got connected to it. It took till I was 29 before I started regular new moon and full moon meditations, but I got reconnected. So it's accessible. It's just that the society wants to keep us
out of our power. Yeah. That's the whole point. It's not like they care about us and God. It's they know that us and God together means that we're going to be like, oh, I'm a sovereign individual. I'm not going to listen to you. That's really silly that you're telling me to do that, you know? But keep going though.
Yeah, well, I think that's the next revolution. That's what I was saying before about the dance. Like the heart being, if it's just you and God, right? We are sovereign. We are also one, because it's you and your God, it's me and my God. So we become this oneness. We become a whole new consciousness. And that's the next step. That's what we're moving into now with the age of Aquarius and the new age. I wanted to talk about how our hearts could lead us into that without really, I think I was mentioning that before, how it's sped up. But also, I mean, I used to never be a real protester. When I was at university, we had every protester under the sun. We had the anarchists and the communists and the whatever-ists and the everything. And I was like, no, I don't think so. Because I felt like the inner work of that connecting to the self, that is the revolution that we've been waiting for. You know, the Beatles and all of those people went to India. They were onto something. When the Beatles went to India, they got all those downloads about what the new age of Aquarius was going to be coming. And so that music infused all of our desire to have more of the new age consciousness, and the merging of the East and the West was a lot because of the Beatles, because of what they did. And I think that's the revolution there, that connection to God. And even, you know, George had a really strong spiritual tradition. A lot of them did. They had strong spiritual traditions. So that's for me the next stage of the heart, like how we can all find our own personal divine in here. And it's happening anyway. You know it's happening. So people watching the video, you know it's happening. Everybody that watches your channel knows that it's happening. But I think we underestimate it.
It's true. It's true. And I tell that to people all the time, because there's so many people that want to ignore it. And a part of me is like, well, you're going to go through it anyways, because it's happening regardless. But if you're not activating that heart, if you're not doing the work to clear it out and purify it, you're in trouble. And so I see mental illness off the charts these days, because they're all getting activated, but they're not doing the work. And whatever the work is for you, like you were talking about the swirling with dance, and you mentioned Tai Chi and Qigong, like, and then even in Rosicrucian, when I took a Rosicrucian class, like just doing this in the rhythm that gets that toroidal field flowing, and with the up and down energy, the way our spine and its electrical circuits work is in and out, in and out, in and out. Like you have to be doing that, and that's circling the drain of the trauma. It's gonna, I would say, it disintegrates it and then integrates it. A lot of it will fly off, but a lot will actually just integrate inside of you. And this is why we get stronger and smarter and able to handle more things if we jump into ascension with 2 feet, doing all these different techniques and modalities to do the work. And your work sounds very powerful. It sounds very effective. I should switch to it. I mean, everything else is great, but it's like dance is so much more fun, put it that way. Like that's fantastic, because all these people, if you're one of them and you are listening and you're not doing the work, know that like you're going to have to, if you want to be happy, if you want to have a happy life, and life doesn't have to be happy every minute of the day, but you always should have hope that it's going to be, even if right now it's not very fun. In 5 minutes or so, I can pull back in, I can dance, I can do something to make myself happy again, to clear it out, because you're going to ascend if you like it or not, or you're going to leave the planet, which we're seeing that happening too. There's a lot of people leaving as well, which is the other option. There is no other option though. And then you'll probably be recycled back in as a baby and still have to ascend. So you're really not escaping.
I'm praying that some of them can go to another planet if they want.
I've heard from channelers that they're making a new 3D planet and they'll get to be born there. That doesn't feel, I don't think so, because I think we're all one. I don't think anybody gets to escape. That's my own gnosis, though. I'm okay with being wrong. I always say that I'm okay at any moment in the day if I'm wrong, but I just have to live and speak from my truth. I don't think anybody can escape at all. I don't think a single one of us can.
Yeah, and unless your heart,
unless you actually ascend, unless you actually finish and
really
graduate, then I agree. Then you can. If you graduate, then you're good to go.
To the love. That's the trick. Like the heart, it's not a bypass to the other chakras. We've got stuff in the other chakras too, but the heart is the one that's why Christ has been such a big influence, because he was a teacher on the heart. Mm-hmm. And I started with Christ. I've spent a lot of time with a few other teachers, but Christ hugely impacted me. And like I said, that teaching, like love one another as I have loved you. It's timeless. It's what's going to help us be able to if you can't love yourself, it's okay. But if you can feel God's love in whatever way you can do it, whatever form, you don't have to dance, you can just find that way that to feel that connection to the divine, because the divine is here for us now. It's huge. It's so big what's coming now on the earth energetically. It wasn't there when I grew up. It's so much stronger. And like you grew up with people saying you're nuts because you're hearing stuff. I thought I was nuts, but I never told anybody. But that you can have a channel talking about this stuff now, that's huge. Like, that's how things have changed so far from when I grew up and when you grew up as well. You can talk about this now, so it's a really big blessing. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. And I feel you on the Jesus thing. That's who came and got me out of my atheism. Like, I kept having, it's hard to explain, and you always sound crazy. Even in this world, when we hear each other's stories, you're like, you can't see the truth of it unless you've experienced it. In just moments of these, like, getting hits and pings to just follow Jesus. And it's nuts, but it's a journey, right? I want to honor your time here because you're in Australia and it's very late at night for you. So we've been going an hour, and I promised we wouldn't go over an hour, but we have.
Okay.
I'll give you a chance here to close off. Say anything that you want to make sure that people know, and then feel free to let them know how they can find you. And thank you so much for being here. I have enjoyed this deeply.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you for sharing your time with me. So my channel on YouTube, Dance with Angela. You can find videos there once a week. I put up some videos. I'm doing more movement videos. I've done other videos in the past where we look at the heart, look at the energy body, look at what's the new era, the age of Aquarius. And I've got an online class, which is 8 p.m. Eastern in the USA, 10 a.m. Mondays in Australia, so 8 p.m. Eastern on Sundays. So you can find that link on my website, dancewithangela.com. And if you're in Australia, if you happen to be watching Diana's channel, I'm in Marrickville in Sydney at Amira's Palace on Thursdays, and that's where we have Sufi dance and world dance healing. So come and dance with Angela. Thank you, Diana.
Perfect. And thank you so much for being with us today, Angela. And thank you so much, audience, for being with us here today on Transcending Ascension. Talk to you soon.